Broadcasting live from the mountains of Montana, get ready for an hour of pure, unapologetic conservative talk radio. Liberals beware, because this is the Wise Conservative Show.
Hello and welcome to episode 116 of the Wise Conservative Show. I'm your host, Connor Wise. And something came out just today, and I've been following this story for quite a while, as I'm sure most people have heard of it. It's been in the news quite a bit. But if you don't know what's been happening, there's been this compound that police found in New Mexico where extremists were training, after they kidnapped children, they were training them to basically be children soldiers against schools. So basically they would train them on how to properly use weapons, how to take down teachers, how to take down police that would come to try to intervene. And they found evidence piled up on for this to actually be charges against these three extremist Muslims that were running this New Mexico compound. And so it looked like it was a done deal that these people were going to get locked away in prison like they should. I mean, they even have them connected to the death of a missing 3-year-old boy, where they found the remains of him actually on the compound. So these people were terrible. I mean, they were training children soldiers against schools. They kidnapped babies and then killed them. These people deserve to be locked up, if not just being locked up, getting the death penalty, because they did some extreme things. But basically what came out today, saying that all of the charges that were being brought forth against these people are being dropped. All three of these suspects are getting let go scot-free. So the judge in this, and this is the second judge that's been seeing this case, the first judge, I'll get to in a little bit, did something that also was not really what should have happened in this case. But this time, District Judge Emilio Chavez just today dismissed charges against 3 of these people, ruling that authorities violated the state's 10-day rule. So basically what happens is, in New Mexico, prosecutors have a 10-day limit to bring evidence to establish probable cause, to bring enough evidence for that. And apparently these prosecutors didn't bring enough evidence for probable cause within the 10-day limit. And so the judge actually was left with no option but to drop all of the charges. So, I mean, these people are getting away scot-free when we know for a fact that they did this. But this isn't the first problem that's happened in this case. All the way at the very beginning, right when they were arrested, the first judge, Judge Sarah Backus, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that last name right, but she ordered the release of all of the suspects accused of running this school shooting training camp after one of their attorneys in the case said that they're only being targeted because they're black and they're Muslim, as opposed to white and Christian. And the judge bought this, and so ordered the release of them right then. The judge said that Monday following then, saying, quote, "Many people here live in unconventional ways." Now, these two judges both did things that I don't agree with, but the second one, it's law. He had to. The first judge, Judge Sarah Backus, however you pronounce it, this judge let go murderers, let go people training children soldiers in New Mexico, because she didn't want to seem like she was judging people's lifestyle. Because people live in unconventional ways. Well, yeah, of course it's an unconventional way to be kidnapping and training children to be soldiers. Yeah, that's not conventional. But that doesn't mean that it's okay to live that way. It doesn't mean that that's not against the law. These people are terrorists. They're training children terrorists. And they get let go. You know, when I read this headline, I mean, I was surprised because it seemed like this was a done deal. But it seems like everywhere in this case, there have just been mistakes after mistakes. Whether it's the prosecutors somehow not presenting enough evidence in 10 days, even though they had an entire compound of evidence, whether it's the first judge releasing these suspects, or whether it's this last judge dismissing all the charges. Mistakes have been plenty in this case. And I've actually seen people defending, just like this judge did, defending these terrorists, saying that they're just trying to live their own life and that we're only judging them because they're Muslim or because they're black, just like the judge agreed with. But that's not what's happening. What's happening here is the police found a terrorist group, essentially. They found monsters within New Mexico, within the United States. We're not judging them because they're black or because they're Muslim. We're judging them because they were kidnapping children. We're judging them because they were training children to shoot up schools. We're judging them because they killed some of those children. We're judging them because they're monsters. Because they're doing evil things. But for some reason in today's society, people like this are defended just because Republicans don't agree with it. Just because Donald Trump doesn't agree with it. There's this new era, and I'm sure you've heard this term, Trump derangement syndrome. It seems like so many people within the media, within even being judges, within everyday life, there's so many people so deranged by the fact that Donald Trump is the leader of this party and that there's people who agree with him on things, that anything he agrees with, they automatically go against him. He says that this isn't a good thing. People are going to go against that. They're going to say, no, this is just people expressing their culture, expressing their lifestyle, living in an unconventional way, but it's a way that they should be allowed to live. It's gone extreme, and it's gotten to the point where now we have terrorists walking away because they didn't want to offend them. Because they didn't want to say that these people were extremists, that these Muslims were extremists. And this goes all the way back to the issue in the 2016 election where they wouldn't say radical Islamic terror. It's the same sort of issue. They're afraid to label someone as a terrorist or as an extremist because they don't want to offend that person. So instead, they let this happen. They let people get away. And as you can tell, I definitely don't agree with anything that's happened in this. And it does make me angry, the fact that these people are able to just walk away. It really just shows that there's a lot of judges, a lot of even prosecutors within our nation that aren't doing their jobs correctly, that aren't doing what people either voted them in for or they got hired to do. They're not helping out our nation. They're not helping out the citizens and our safety and prosecuting criminals correctly. Instead, they'd rather keep people from being offended. And that seems to be the progressive and the liberal mantra of today's society. But moving on, I'm sure you know, that story will be back in the news, I'm sure, again next week or for something else, and I'll talk to you guys about it again. But moving on to the election, another Tuesday primary just happened yesterday, and this one actually had some interesting results in Florida. The gubernatorial primary happened, and it really shows kind of a preview of a showdown between Bernie Sanders and Donald Trump, or even a flashback. So Donald Trump's favored candidate, Ron DeSantis, he defeated his opponent in the primary, and now he won the nomination from the Republicans. And meanwhile, for Democrats, and actually kind of an upset, Bernie Sanders-backed Tallahassee Mayor Andrew Gillum, he pulled off a very huge upset, defeating a half a dozen rivals. So it was a very crowded field, including former Representative Gwen Graham, who obviously was a very favored person from the establishment and from the Democratic Party. So now DeSantis and Gillum will face each other in November's general election. They're already sparring over different issues. And it's kind of like this showdown between the two sides of America right now, because we see Democrats and the left going further and further left. We see them going further into the Bernie Sanderites, the socialist, democratic socialists, as they put it, the socialist side, the extreme leftist side, and then you have, the Trump Republicans and the just general anti-establishment people that are conservative or independent going with Trump's backing. And so we have this other showdown, and there's showdowns like this all across the nation now. Of course, with like Ocasio-Cortez winning her nomination. It's just crazy the amount of Bernie Sanders-backed candidates that are actually gaining ground. So I do believe in this next presidential election coming up in 2020, we're going to have a Democrat that has a lot of ground and that takes away from the establishment, maybe even Ocasio-Cortez or maybe Bernie Sanders again, one of these extreme socialists. That seems to be what's been coming out of all these primaries. But basically what's happening in November, we're going to have a huge showdown on all levels, whether it's Senate, House of Reps, governor, state representatives, and all of these different positions. We're going to have this huge showdown between these socialist candidates urging Medicare for all, urging universal income, abolishing ICE, all of these extremist policies that Bernie Sanders and his little group of socialists love to tout. And it's going to be them against pretty much everyone else, because Donald Trump doesn't just reach out to the extremists, and we saw that in the 2016 election. So the closer we get to the actual election and the more primaries that happen, the more hopeful I am that we're going to keep the House and the Senate, that we're going to gain even more governor seats, because we have Democrats nominating these people that are unelectable. We have Democrats nominating these people that don't reach out to the everyday voters, to the independents. But the Republican candidates do. So I do believe, and as we get closer, it'll become more and more easy to predict this. But right now, I'm calling it. We keep both the House and the Senate. Because we're putting up people that are agreeable, that are moderate, that aren't extremists. And that's something that Donald Trump has shifted into having these populist candidates, these candidates that most people can agree with on some sort of level. And it's going to work. This Trump red wave is happening. We have more Republicans gaining more ground in every state. Even in California, we have Republicans gaining ground. It's happening. The red wave is happening. The blue wave is non-existent. The blue wave is being completely squashed out by these socialist candidates that are winning these nominations because of huge packed fields that establishment has 2, 3, or 4 different candidates running. And so the one socialist or 2 socialist candidates, they're getting a lot of ground because of it. And it's not going to help them out at all. And in fact, it's going to help Republicans out. And I'm excited to see this happen in November. I'm excited to see Republicans keep control so that we can actually implement more policies, so that we can axe away even more regulations, so that we don't try to abolish ICE. Because if Democrats take control with all these socialist extremists, they're going to try that. They're going to try to impeach Donald Trump on completely illogical grounds. November is going to be a very great time for the Republican Party, folks. I'm calling it right now. I'm saying right now that we're going to keep our seats, and I know for a fact that these socialist candidates are never going to win as many independent voters as Trump-backed candidates. I'm going to take a quick commercial break. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back.
Hey everybody, Connor Wise here with an exclusive clip from the Wise Conservative Show. Don't go anywhere, I'll be right back. But on certain universities, you have these zones which are free speech zones. You have to get permits just to hand out the constitutions to students. You can't say what you want. If you say anything that's conservative, you're automatically deemed as a racist, as a bigot, and not fit to be at the university. Not fit to be in any leadership position. People all across America are waking up and realizing that fake news isn't helping our nation. People are realizing that they don't deliver the facts, nor do they deliver the truth. The fake news era is coming to an end, and that's exactly why Patriot News Radio was created. On Patriot News Radio, you have a wide selection of conservative talk hosts, including myself, with the Wise Conservative Show. Patriot News Radio streams 24/7 on TuneIn Radio, so you can just go to the app or to the website and stream it. Also, if you have a Google Home device, all you have to do is say, "Hey Google, play Patriot News Radio," and there you have it. Patriot News Radio right in your own home. Patriot News Radio delivers you the facts and the truth 24/7. Patriot News Radio, where America comes to talk.
Ever wanted to learn the history of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict in less than 10 minutes? Are you looking for the truth about the so-called gender wage gap? Well, my friends, I'll let you in on a little secret. Prager University is a source that I use all the time when preparing for my show, the Jason Veely Program. Dennis Prager and his team have put together a remarkable organization that seeks to explain and spread Americanism through the power of the internet. Their short yet extremely informative videos reach more than 100 million people per year, and they want to reach you as well. Go on YouTube and type in Prager University, or go to prageru.com for all of their latest content. That's Prager, the letter U.com. prageru.com.
How are you feeling today? If you're not feeling great, then it could be what you're eating. The problem is that trace elements are missing in food products today. Trace elements are the minerals that provide long-lasting nutritional value in the foods we eat. Tarsul is a key mix of two minerals that can make you feel and look better. Tarsul's ingredients, sulfur and cream of tartar, have been prescribed by physicians for hundreds of years. Go to tarsul.com now to find out more. That's TARSUL.com to get well now.
Calling all young conservatives. Have you ever wanted to write for an online publication? What about host your own conservative radio program? Now you can, thanks to YouthRevolt.org. Youth Revolt is a conservative media network for young people, the goal of which is to educate our fellow Americans, and also to expose the left-wing indoctrination that goes on in classrooms across the country. Become part of a team that is dedicated to taking the country back, one radio program or opinion column at a time. If you're interested, go to youthrevolt.org and click on Join Us on the top of the page. Fill out our brief questionnaire, and one of our representatives will be in touch with you in no time at all. The time to reclaim our future is now. Be a part of something that's bigger than yourself, and join the movement today. Youth Revolt. Speak without fear.
A well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. There are people in this nation that would have you give up your rights, that would have you turn in your guns. We have these people who are in office, we have these people who are marching in our streets, that are walking out of their schools. People who think that your right is not important. On the Wise Conservative Show, we know that your rights matter, and we will tell you the truth about your liberties. We will tell you the truth about all the issues happening and the facts around all of these debates. For your daily dose of conservatism, for your daily dose of the facts and the truth. Tune into the Wise Conservative Show every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, only on Youth Revolt.
Welcome back to the Wise Conservative Show. I am your host, Connor Wise. And I've talked about this before, the California election that's about to happen for governor. I've talked about John Cox and Gavin Newsom and how they're going to be facing off against each other. Well, the Democrat Gavin Newsom is now touting his plan to grant universal health care to not just the citizens of California, but also the illegals that are in California. And he was very proud about this when he talked about it in a recent podcast interview. So I have this clip for you guys here. It was on the podcast Pod Save America. And, well, I'll let you guys see what you think about it, but it's kind of crazy the way how excited he is about this plan.
So let's talk about something very costly, single-payer healthcare. You've been very supportive over the course of the campaign. Yeah. You've expressed in the past support for Senate Bill 562, single-payer healthcare here in California.
As amended, yes.
Right. So it passed the state Senate. It died in Assembly. Do you, as governor, do you hope to revive that bill? Do you want to see a new bill? How do you plan to get single payer passed?
It needs to be pulled into the governor's office. The executive needs to lead it. Obamacare would not have happened. It was just exclusively a legislative fiat. That said, Nancy Pelosi did a magical job of organizing it, but it required the concerted contributions of the President of the United States. The only way in a state whose population is larger than 163 nations, California, whose economy is larger than all but 4 nations, the 5th largest economy, to approximate a strategy for universal health care is with the support and concurrence of the governor. And that's, frankly, it's not an indictment. It's just what's been missing in the past. So I would bring that into my office. I'd broaden it well beyond a bill that basically started a process. If you read 562, which the vast majority of elected officials that were for and against it did not. For and against, did not. Because they would have actually known what it said. It created a committee that began a process to come up with a strategy and plan to finance and organize with 34 prescribed benefits a universal strategy for single-payer financing. That process can be done without a bill. That process should be done by the next governor, and I'm committed to it for no other reason than healthcare is devouring our budget. Healthcare in this state is the biggest driver of unfunded retirement benefits. It's a driver of a lot of our costs, not least of which at the UC and CSU. I serve on both those boards. Tuition is impacted by the costs of employment, personnel costs, which is impacted by healthcare. It's the issue that animates most of the voters I talk to still, even in this post-Obamacare world. And the inflationary burdens are self-evident, and the vandalism these guys are doing in the federal level is only going to make things worse. So I'd like to see if we can control our own destiny. I'm not naive about it. I did universal health care when I was mayor, fully implemented, regardless of pre-existing condition, ability to pay, and regardless of your immigration status. San Francisco is the only universal health care plan for all undocumented residents in America. I'm very proud of that. And we proved it can be done without bankrupting the city. I'd like to see that we can extend that to the rest of the state.
So there's a couple things that I want to talk about from this clip. But let's start at the very end. Let's start with what we just heard. Him saying that he was proud of what he did as mayor of San Francisco. Now, if you don't know, Newsom was mayor of San Francisco all the way from 2004 to 2011. And, well, we all know how San Francisco is. And while it's getting worse today, it's still the same sort of thing that's been happening for years. San Francisco is filled with homeless. San Francisco has these people living on streets, on sidewalks, where they defecate, where they have used needles lying on the ground. There's a video of someone walking through a tunnel in San Francisco, and there's all these homeless people and druggies just sitting around the side, some with needles still in them, use needles all over the ground, and these people are just high. San Francisco is not a great place to live, and it hasn't been for a while because of Democratic policies. And he was very proud that he implemented this universal health care, and that he did it in a cost-effective way. Yet he doesn't give the numbers of that, because I guarantee it wasn't that cost-effective, and that they had to raise the taxes on the many companies and corporations that are housed within San Francisco. But then let's just expand it still. He said before he was so proud of what he did in San Francisco that right now healthcare is a burden on the California budget. He said that healthcare for the elderly and that healthcare for the CSU and the UC, the college systems, it increases their tuitions there, and that it's just a burden in terms of the California government in general. And he's labeling already high and expensive governmental given healthcare systems as a reason that we need to add more governmental healthcare. He's saying that because Medi-Cal and all these other California programs already cost California too much and it's a burden on the taxpayers, that we need to add everyone to the system, that we need to expand it to every citizen and every illegal. And I've been thinking about this because I got this clip probably an hour ago now is when I listened to it first. And I've been really thinking since then, trying to figure out how that makes any sense whatsoever. How someone can think that if you take a system that's already terrible, that's already way too cost ineffective and inefficient, and you expand it, how it's going to be more effective fiscally and even just in practice for the citizens and illegals. I'm trying to wrap my mind around how this works. But I've come to the conclusion that no sense of logic whatsoever says that it'll work. And you notice that in this entire interview, and if you listen to the full interview, he never mentions numbers on this. He never mentions how much this would cost. It's the same thing that Bernie Sanders did when he proposed Medicare for all on the federal level. But we know that that would cost more than the net worth of every single billionaire in the nation. You see, universal health care, Medicare for all, whatever they're calling it these days, it never will work without taxing everyone at almost 100%. Especially when you're giving it to people, illegals, who don't pay taxes. Illegals do not pay taxes. They don't pay property taxes. They don't pay. They work under the table, so they don't pay income tax. I mean, these people are living off of the government already with a lot of welfare systems in California and across the U.S. But Newsom wants to expand that. He wants to let them use taxpayer money for even their health care. You know, from the beginning, I could tell, as soon as he started talking about healthcare for all, for universal healthcare, I mean, he obviously has talked about this a lot. He obviously has his pitch down saying that, Californians need this. But never once does he actually say how this will work or how much he's going to have to raise taxes, no matter what speech you listen to or no matter what interview you listen to. And the fact is, there's no way that California, or any state for that matter, could ever implement this on that large of a scale. Especially a state as big as California. Now, California, even though they used to have a surplus in their budget, the past few years, they've not had a surplus. They've had a deficit. And it's just getting worse the more and more policies that Jerry Brown implements. And Gavin Newsom is running on the fact that he wants to be more liberal than Jerry Brown. Someone who wants to tax cow farts because they're hurting the environment. Someone who has already made California one of the, if not the most taxed state in the entire union. He wants to add more taxes to it. He wants to add healthcare for all. He wants to add college for all. All of these liberal, progressive, socialist policies that never quite have the numbers behind them. I have never once heard a Democrat, a socialist, whatever, liberal party, Green Party, all of these, I've never once heard any of them actually say how anywhere could afford it. I've never heard them give numbers, give budgets, give tax hikes for it. Because the fact is that it's not affordable. The fact is that it hurts the middle class more than it helps it. While Democrats claim to be for the middle class, their policies like this, where they want to tax everyone so much higher, it just proves that they're not truly for middle class Americans. Because what they call raising taxes on the wealthiest, in reality transforms into raising taxes on the middle class as well. Because there's not enough money just by taxing the 1%. That's not how it works. That's not how economics works. Maybe in this progressive fairy tale land of rainbows and unicorns that they all seem to live in, universal healthcare will work. But in the real world, in the world where currency is the thing, where budgets are a thing, and where taxes are a burden, in that world, the real world, universal healthcare will never work in the US. And the places that already have implemented it, it doesn't work that well. That's why you have Canadian citizens come to America to get surgeries done, because their socialist healthcare system is so slow and inefficient. You know, if you ask anyone, whether they're conservative, liberal, libertarian, anyone, ask them if they can think of one government agency or program that is efficient. I could never think of one, and I guarantee no one can. But even the people who propose things such as universal healthcare, universal basic income, universal college, these people will also say that they can't think of one. But then they come up with the excuse that, oh, that's just because Republicans ruin it. But in all reality, it's because government, the entity of government, whatever the program, will never be efficient. It'll always be wasteful. It'll always be inefficient. The DMV is the perfect example. That's government acting right there. And it's one of the worst things in the world. Democrats will continue to propose universal health care. They will continue to propose it for not just citizens, but even for illegals. But the facts are on the side of conservatives. The facts are on the side that this will never work. The truth, economics, reality is on the side saying that universal health care is a drain on the economy, a drain on the budget, and a drain in everyday people's pockets. We don't want more taxes, contrary to what Democratic officials believe. But sticking with the topic of the election, and guys, this election has a lot of issues, whether it's Cuomo in New York saying that America was never great, which I covered in, I believe, the last episode, or whether it's saying that universal healthcare or Medicare for all is something that we need. There's been a lot of things that I've been able to talk about from this election. But just this isn't very substantial, but it's also something that really shows where Democrats and where the progressive movement in America has gone to. So Cynthia Nixon, she's running against Cuomo. She's an aide for the Democrat running against Cuomo. So she asked, reportedly, to control the temperature of the room in which these two candidates are scheduled to debate in this upcoming week. And, okay, fine. But Nixon and Cuomo, they're set to debate this Wednesday, and it's known that Cuomo likes to work in cooler conditions, and so, generally they're going to have it not too hot but not too cold, just normal room temperature. But apparently having something at normal room temperature is sexist. So a strategist for Nixon reportedly told the local CBS station that working conditions are, quote, notoriously sexist when it comes to room temperature. So we just want to make sure we're all on the same page here, saying that they wanted to have the temperature set in the room to 76 degrees, and that if it's any colder than that, it's sexist. And this isn't the first time that we've heard weird claims like this from Democrats in America. This isn't the first time that we've heard people just randomly claiming sexism, whether it's Hillary Clinton talking about the 2016 election as to why she lost, or, pretty much any Democrat just talking about a Republican. No matter what happens, they always claim sexism or homophobia or racism. And I've talked about this for a long time on this show. I guarantee, and I really think that they have to have this list. They have to have a list of these isms and these phobias that they can just go down and they can call different people. If you're running against someone, you're, what's next on the list? You're sexist. Or, every time they're debating someone, they can just pull out this long list and read all of them, and the Democratic base will go crazy saying, you're right, this person is a homophobe, this person is a xenophobe or a racist. And it's never anything substantial. You see, this is the same issue that Democrats have on so many different issues. They don't have substance. They don't have any facts or evidence behind any of their claims. They say constantly that people are sexist, that Donald Trump is racist, that Donald Trump is sexist, or, insert random person here, whether it's Republican or even Cuomo in this case. And they never have evidence. They just say it, and the news and liberals across America eat it up, saying that it's true, and they retweet the tweets, because it's always in tweets nowadays. They retweet it, they repost it on Facebook, they share it, all of these different things, because they think that it's true just because some celebrity or some liberal candidate says it. But 99% of the time, it's not true. And it's just another way that progressives in our nation have come up with to try to discredit their opponents. It's a strange strategy because it doesn't actually help them reach out to anyone else, but it really fires up the progressive base in America for some reason. For some reason, calling someone insert name here is a really good strategy for firing up their base. I'm going to take one last quick commercial break. Don't go anywhere. This is the Wise Conservative Show.
Hey everybody, Connor Wise here with an exclusive clip from The Wise Conservative Show. Don't go anywhere, I'll be right back. And that's how a government should be run, folks. You can't legislate based on emotion, based on morality. You have to legislate based on the truth and the facts. It's something that Democrats seem to have struggled with, and it's something that they continue to struggle with when it comes to the immigration debate.
Do you need money to grow your small business? We are the Business Loan Consultants, and we can help you get money for your business. We have helped many businesses, including fitness studios, general contractors, hair salons, medical practices, automotive shops, and many, many more. We can help get loans ranging from $10,000 up to $1 million. If you own a restaurant and need money for renovations, money to buy new equipment, or simply need working capital, we can help. If you have been in business for at least 1 year and have a monthly revenue of at least $10,000, call us today at 800-460-8679. Banks can take months to approve your loan. You can't afford to wait. We can help you get approved for a loan in 24 hours. If you need money for your business, don't wait. Call us now at 800-460-8679. Get the money you need today.
People all across America are waking up and realizing that fake news isn't helping our nation. People are realizing that they don't deliver the facts, nor do they deliver the truth. The fake news era is coming to an end, and that's exactly why Patriot News Radio was created. On Patriot News Radio, you have a wide selection of conservative talk hosts, including myself with The Wise Conservative Show. Patriot News Radio streams 24/7 on TuneIn Radio, so you can just go to the app or to the website and stream it. Also, if you have a Google Home device, all you have to do is say, "Hey Google, play Patriot News Radio," and there you have it, Patriot News Radio right in your own home. Patriot News Radio delivers you the facts and the truth 24/7. Patriot News Radio, where America comes to talk.
Ever wanted to learn the history of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict in less than 10 minutes? Are you looking for the truth about the so-called gender wage gap? Well, my friends, I'll let you in on a little secret. Prager University is a source that I use all the time when preparing for my show, the Jason Veely Program. Dennis Prager and his team have put together a remarkable organization that seeks to explain and spread Americanism through the power of the internet. Their short yet extremely informative videos reach more than 100 million people per year, and they want to reach you as well. Go on YouTube and type in Prager University, or go to prageru.com for all of their latest content. That's Prager, the letter U.com. prageru.com.
A well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. There are people in this nation that would have you give up your rights, that would have you turn in your guns. We have these people who are in office, we have these people who are marching in our streets, that are walking out of their schools. People who think that your right is not important. On the Wise Conservative Show, we know that your rights matter, and we will tell you the truth about your liberties. We will tell you the truth about all the issues happening and the facts around all of these debates. For your daily dose of conservatism, for your daily dose of the facts and the truth, tune into the Wise Conservative Show every Wednesday at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, only on Youth Revolt.
Welcome back to the Wise Conservative Show for this last segment of tonight's show. I am your host, Connor Wise. Now, this past week, I was working this event called TWCS. Basically, it's at my university, and it's to get people signed up for clubs or to be basically more involved on campus. And I was helping out Young Americans for Liberty, which I'm a part of this year. And what we had a couple things. One thing was this giant beach ball that we blew up, and it was a free speech ball, so you could write down anything you wanted. And it was obviously to draw attention to the free speech codes on campus, which, as I've talked about on this show, actually can be very restrictive and very subjective. And then we also had a whiteboard, that had like what should be legal written on it, and people got to vote for what they think should not be regulated as heavily by the government. And it's kind of crazy. I mean, first off, of course, people love writing on voting in these random things or writing on the free speech ball, saying anything that they want. But at the same time, it's also kind of crazy the amount of people who are very hypocritical about the situation. Because we have people come over and argue or just yell as they walk past, saying that these sort of things are dumb, that they shouldn't be allowed, that on campus you shouldn't be doing this sort of thing. And we have people stop and debate about different free speech policies, or that all these policies on campus or across the nation. And it's very ironic because these people are literally using their free speech, their First Amendment right, to fight against the First Amendment. And I think that's a perfect example of today's progressives, of millennials, of these very hypocritical generation of Democrats. Whether it's Ocasio-Cortez with this new generation of Democratic Socialists, or pretty much any college student. They seem to want to pick and choose when rights can be applied. They want to be able to have free speech themselves and say whatever they want. They want to be able to do whatever they want, whenever they want, but they don't want people they disagree with to be able to. They don't want groups like College Republicans or Young Americans for Liberty, Turning Point, to be on campus, because these groups talk about the issues that liberal policies have brought up on campus. They don't want these groups on campus that might disagree with them. They don't want people to be able to talk about all of these issues because they don't agree with it. Yet, at the same time, they're using the same issue that's being talked about to say that these people shouldn't be talking. And it's kind of crazy the amount of people that think this way. And it's a little scary. I mean, we see all the time people saying that on college campuses, and I've talked about this quite a bit on this show, but on college campuses, there's a lot of very subjective speech codes, whether it's here at my own school or whether it's at pretty much any Californian university, New York University, any college across the nation pretty much. Most of the speech codes are subjective, meaning the faculty, the administration, the security, they get to decide when something is not appropriate for school. They get to decide on the spot if whether they disagree with it or not. They get to decide whether it should be allowed on campus. And so if you're a conservative talking about a certain issue, or even just handing out pocket constitutions, which has been an issue before on campuses, if they don't like it, they'll tell you to leave, and you have to. But all the time, and this happens, we see it with speakers across the nation, whether it's Ben Shapiro or Charlie Kirk. We see these people being told that they can't speak at the university when days before or after they have these prominent liberal speakers. Speakers that honestly cause more flack than these conservative speakers. but because they're liberal, they're allowed. And it's very crazy. It's astounding, the amount of people that don't realize how hypocritical that they're being on these issues. And it seems to be a very main idea and ideal that progressives have in our nation, which is sad, because these are a lot of people, these are mostly millennials, people that are going to be the next leaders of the nation, people that are growing up to be the next representative, the next senator, and they want to pick and choose when rights can be applied, whether it's in a free speech zone or whether it's a subjective decision on whether you should be allowed to talk. It's a very slippery slope that they're going down. All right, that's all for today's episode of The Wise Conservative Show. I'm your host, Connor Wise. I'd like to thank you all for tuning in. You can find me on Spreaker.com, iHeartRadio, YouTube, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Patriot News Radio, and many more places. Go ahead and give my page a like. Just search The Wise Conservative Show on Facebook, and that way you'll have all the updates. I'd like to thank you all for tuning in once again, and as always, God bless.